I woke up to the sound of breathing beside me. Slow, controlled, too steady to be Hannah. I didn't move. Interview 1. The First Family, 1976 to 1994. Recorded, March 2024. I want to start by saying this up front, because I know how this sounds. For most of the time we lived there, I didn't think the house was haunted. I thought it was attentive. We moved in during the summer of 1976. I was 32. My husband, Paul, was 34. We had 2 kids. Mark was 6, and Elaine had just turned 4. The neighborhood was quiet. New families. Fresh lawns. The kind of place where people waved even if they didn't know your name yet. The house itself wasn't old. Built in the late 40s, I think. 1 story, 3 bedrooms, a finished basement. Nothing creaky or dramatic. No history anyone mentioned. That's important, because if someone had told us a story, I probably would have believed that instead of what I ended up believing. The first thing I noticed wasn't a sound or a shadow. It was how quickly the house learned our routines. Within a few weeks, the floors would creak exactly where we stepped most often. The hallway outside the kids' room. The spot in the kitchen where I always stopped to set my purse down. The stair 3 steps from the bottom that Paul used to complain about. That doesn't sound strange, I know. Houses settle, would reacts to weight. But it was precise. If I got up at night for a glass of water, the creak happened before my foot fully landed. Like the house anticipated me. I joked about it. Told friends the place was eager. Paul didn't laugh. He said it felt like the house was listening when we talked. I brushed that off too. Then the voices started. Not hearing voices, nothing like that. It was more subtle. Little things. Hearing my name called from another room and assuming it was Paul. Or thinking one of the kids was asking a question, only to find them asleep. Every family experiences that. You fill in sounds without realizing it. Except the voices always sounded right. They used the exact tone, the right inflection, even the impatience in Paul's voice when he was annoyed. Once, I answered Mark from the basement, and he replied back, confused, asking why I was mocking him. I wasn't. But whatever I'd called out, it had used his voice. That was the first time I felt something twist in my stomach. Still, we stayed. Years passed. The kids grew. The house stayed the same. Too much the same. You expect wear. Scratches. Discoloration. Something to show time moving forward. But the house didn't age the way other houses did. Paint held longer than it should have. Cracks we filled never came back. It was like the place corrected itself. Paul started keeping notes. I didn't know that until years later. After everything, he tracked small things. Doors being left open that he was sure he'd closed. Lights switched off that had been on. Objects moved just inches from where they'd been set down. He said it felt like the house was practicing. I asked him practicing what? He said us. By the late 80s, the kids refused to sleep with their doors open. They couldn't explain why. Elaine said it felt like the hallway watched her. Mark claimed the house knew when he was lying. He said the air felt heavier when he did. That one scared me more than anything else. Because I felt it too. Arguments didn't stay private. We'd fight in the kitchen, lower our voices, and somehow the tension followed us into every room. Like the walls absorbed it. Like the house liked when we were angry. Paul grew quieter over time. More withdrawn. He said the house repeated things back to him when he was alone. Not audibly, just in feeling. Like he'd think something cruel and immediately feel ashamed, even if no one else heard it. In 1993, he stopped sleeping through the night altogether. He said the house woke up when everyone else did. That it didn't like being alone. The final year was the worst, but nothing dramatic happened. No blood, no screams, no moment you could point to and say this is why we left. It was erosion. We stopped inviting people over because the house felt different when outsiders were present. Tense, watchful, like it was waiting for them to leave. Rooms felt smaller, not physically, but emotionally, like they pressed in on you if you stayed too long. One morning, I found all the family photos rearranged on the living room floor. Not broken, not damaged, just sorted, grouped by person. Paul in one pile, me in another, the kids in their own. The house had learned who we were. That night, Paul said we had to leave. He didn't explain. He didn't need to. We sold in 1994. Fast, cheap, didn't ask questions about the next buyers. When I heard, years later, that the house had been torn down in 2021, I felt relief. That didn't last. Because in 2024, sitting here now, I still notice things. Rooms in my current house feel different depending on my mood. Floorboards creak before I step. And sometimes, very rarely, I'll hear Paul's voice call my name from another room. Paul passed away in 2018. So when I hear him now, I don't answer. I've learned that whatever learned us back then doesn't need the house anymore. Interview 2, The Second Family, 1994 to 2004. Recorded, April 2024. I didn't believe the previous owners. I want that on record. When we bought the house in late 94, the seller mentioned strange feelings and adjustment issues. I assumed they were trying to justify why they were selling below market value, or they were embarrassed about leaving a place they'd raised kids in. We had just had our first child. I was 30. My husband, Ron, was 33. We wanted stability, a yard, a house that felt established. And honestly, at first it did. The house felt settled, like it had already decided where everything belonged. That should have been comforting. The first year was uneventful. Our daughter slept through the night. The neighbors were friendly enough. The house was quiet. Too quiet, sometimes. I remember thinking how sound didn't carry the way it should. You could speak normally in one room and not hear anything from the next. Like the walls absorbed noise. Ron loved that. I didn't. The first thing I noticed was the doors. They didn't slam. They didn't creak. They just closed. Not fully. Not aggressively, just enough to signal that a room was finished being used. If I left the nursery door open, it would be halfway shut when I came back. The bathroom door would drift closed while I was in the kitchen. The basement door, heavy, stubborn, would be latched when I knew I hadn't touched it. Ron blamed air pressure, drafts, but the windows were sealed, and the timing was wrong. The house didn't close doors randomly. It did it when someone left a room upset, or distracted, or crying. When our second child was born in 97, things changed. The house got busy. That's the only word I have for it. The baby monitor picked up sounds that weren't static. Not voices, at least not clearly, but movement. A soft shuffling sound that would stop the moment I entered the room. Toys ended up in places we didn't put them. Not scattered. Placed. Carefully. Facing outward, like they were meant to be seen. Once, I found my daughter's stuffed rabbit sitting upright in the hallway at the exact spot where the carpet changed to hardwood. Centered. Balanced. Watching. I moved it without thinking and felt immediately, like I'd done something rude. That feeling didn't come from me. Ron started losing things. His keys, his wallet, his watch. They always reappeared within a day. Never far. Always somewhere that implied he'd simply forgotten. But Ron wasn't forgetful. He became irritable, defensive. He said the house made him feel interrupted, like he couldn't finish a thought without something pulling his attention away. Arguments started happening in narrow spaces. Hallways, door frames, stair landings, places where the house felt closest. I began noticing that rooms felt different depending on who was in them. The kitchen felt lighter when I was alone. The living room felt heavier when Ron was angry. The children's rooms always felt watched. Not by something malicious, by something curious. In 2001, our daughter asked me why the house didn't like her brother. I asked her what she meant. She said, "It moves him more." I laughed, told her houses don't move people. She looked at me like I was the one being silly. That night, I watched the hallway light turn on by itself, then off, then on again, like someone testing the switch. By 2002, the house stopped pretending to be subtle. Cabinet doors opened while we were in the room. Just a crack, enough to notice. The thermostat changed on its own, but only at night. The most disturbing thing wasn't what the house did. It was how it reacted when we noticed. If we ignored something, it stopped. If we acknowledged it, even just by staring, it escalated. Like it wanted recognition. Like attention fed it. Ron started sleeping on the couch. Said the bedroom felt crowded. I started dreaming about rooms that didn't exist. Hallways that bent slightly. Closets that went back too far. When I woke up, the house felt proud. I can't explain that without sounding insane, but that's the truth. The breaking point came in 2004. I came home from work early and found the house rearranged. Not furniture, space. The hallway to the bedrooms felt longer. The angles were wrong. I walked it 3 times before my brain accepted it led to the same rooms. Our son was standing at the far end, facing the wall. Not crying, not scared, just standing there, like he was waiting for instructions. I called his name. He didn't turn. I touched his shoulder and felt this sudden pressure in my ears, like descending too fast underwater. The hallway tightened. I grabbed him and ran. The pressure released the moment we crossed into the living room. Ron believed me immediately. That should tell you how bad things had already gotten. We moved out within a month. No dramatic goodbye. No closure. When the house was demolished in 2021, I told myself it was over. But in 2024, I still notice doorways feeling narrower when I hesitate. Rooms feeling done with me. And sometimes, when I lose my keys, they reappear somewhere obvious. Somewhere that suggests I was careless. I wasn't. The house just doesn't like being forgotten. Interview 3, The Third Family, 2004 to 2010. Recorded, May 2024. I didn't grow up believing in haunted houses. I believed in stress, in bad wiring, in structural issues, in people projecting meaning onto coincidences because they need explanations. That's probably why the house didn't like me. We moved in during the fall of 2004. My wife, Hannah, and I had been married for 6 years. No kids yet. The house felt like a stepping stone, not forever, but stable, quiet. I remember thinking it felt alert, like walking into a room where a conversation had just stopped. Hannah noticed it too, but she described it differently. She said the house felt expectant. We brushed it off. The first sign of trouble was how the house reacted to resistance. When something small happened, a door closing, a light flickering, and we ignored it, the house stayed calm. When we commented on it, something else followed. A response. It was like a conversation we hadn't agreed to be part of. The house preferred Hannah. I noticed that early. Rooms felt warmer when she entered them. Lights behaved. Doors stayed put. The air felt cooperative. With me, things stalled. Stuttered. Resisted. Cabinets jammed. Drawers stuck halfway open. The shower pressure dropped when I was in it. Once, I joked that the house didn't like men. That night, the bedroom door locked itself. From the inside. We didn't have interior locks. Hannah wanted to leave then. I wanted proof. That was my mistake. I started pushing back, testing boundaries, saying things out loud. I know you can hear me. I'm not scared. The house reacted the way a person does when insulted. It grew colder. Not temperature, presence. The silence thickened. Then it began responding immediately. If I slammed a door, something slammed back. If I shut off a light, another turned on. Once, in the basement, I said, "This is my house." Something moved above me. Heavy, deliberate, like footsteps pacing in irritation. Hannah stopped sleeping well. She said the house watched her from behind. Not visually, like a tension pressing into her back. By 2007, the house had moods. You could feel them when you woke up. Some mornings felt tight, like everything was slightly misaligned. Other days felt calm, almost affectionate. Those were the days the house let us forget it. Then came the punishments. They were never dramatic, never violent, just corrective. I moved a chair that had been sitting in the hallway for weeks. The next morning, every picture frame in the house was tilted. Not fallen, tilted, at the same angle. We straightened them. That night, the hallway felt narrower. The walls didn't move, the space did. Hannah started apologizing to the house. Quietly, under her breath. And the house responded by behaving. That's when I realized it wasn't random. It was training us. In 2009, I woke up to the sound of breathing beside me. Slow, controlled, too steady to be Hannah. I didn't move, didn't open my eyes. The sound stopped when I thought about screaming, like it could hear the thought forming. That was the night I stopped pretending I was in control. The final incident happened in 2010. Hannah and I were arguing, quietly, exhausted, resentful. The kind of argument where nothing productive is said. The house didn't like that. The lights dimmed. The air thickened. The argument felt amplified, distorted. Then the hallway floor buckled. Not collapsed, breathed. A shallow dip formed under our feet, like the house was exhaling. Hannah screamed. The pressure in my ears returned, deeper this time, like the house was squeezing us between its thoughts. We left that night. Didn't pack. Didn't clean. Just walked out. When I heard the house was demolished in 2021, I felt something like victory. That feeling didn't last. Because in 2024, when I lose my temper, rooms still respond. Lights flicker. Air tightens. And sometimes, when I apologize out loud, everything settles. Which means the house didn't need walls. It just needed us to remember how it felt to obey. Interview 4, The Fourth Family, 2012 to 2020. Recorded, June 2024. We didn't buy the house. That feels important to say. We rented it in 2012, short-term at first. My husband, Eric, and I were in our early 40s. The kids were teenagers. We were in between plans. The landlord said the previous owners couldn't settle. I thought that meant financial trouble. The house didn't feel curious the way some places do. It didn't feel alert or expectant. It felt finished, like it already knew exactly what it wanted from us. The first thing I noticed was how the house resisted change. Furniture didn't sit right unless it was placed where the previous owners must have kept it. We tried rearranging the living room twice. Both times, the room felt wrong, unbalanced, tense. By the third day, we moved everything back without discussing it. The house relaxed. That was the word that kept coming to mind. Relaxed. The second thing was the silence. Not quiet, silence. Sound didn't echo properly. Laughter felt swallowed. Music lost depth. It was like the house absorbed noise and decided how much it wanted to give back. The kids hated their rooms immediately. My daughter said hers felt occupied. My son said his closet felt deeper at night. We told them not to exaggerate. The house corrected us for that. Doors stopped responding. You'd turn a knob and feel resistance. Not mechanical, but intentional. Like someone on the other side holding it closed. Lights flickered only when someone spoke negatively about the house. Once, Eric joked that the place felt possessive. The bedroom door locked itself. That was the last joke anyone made. By 2014, the house had routines. Lights turned off at the same time each night. Hallways narrowed at night. Not physically, but perceptually. Walking them felt like pushing through pressure. The house wanted us in certain rooms. The living room, the bedrooms. The basement was forbidden. Not by a sign, by sensation. The air down there felt wrong. Dense. Pressurized. Like being underwater too long. In 2016, Eric went down anyway. He came back pale and shaking. He said the basement didn't feel like part of the house. It felt like where the house stored things. He wouldn't explain further. By then, the house no longer hid its reactions. If someone cried, the air tightened. If someone yelled, the walls responded, a low vibration that settled into your chest and stayed there. The house disliked conflict, but it fed on fear. In 2018, my daughter stopped sleeping at home. She stayed with friends. Said the house stood too close at night. My son started talking to it. Not joking, not pretending. He apologized to walls, thanked rooms, said, "Excuse me," when passing doorways. The house rewarded him. His room felt lighter, warmer, safe. That terrified me more than anything else. By 2019, the house began asserting boundaries. Doors locked behind us. Rooms sealed off for days at a time. Once, the hallway to the kitchen simply ended. Not visually, but when you walked it, you felt an overwhelming certainty that you shouldn't go any further. Your body refused. In early 2020, Eric tried to leave during an argument. The front door wouldn't open. The knob turned. The latch clicked. But the door didn't move. He pushed harder. The walls vibrated. Not violently, but warningly. The house didn't want him leaving upset. We waited. Apologized. Calmed down. The door opened easily once the house decided the moment had passed. That's when we understood. The house didn't see us as residents. It saw us as contents. We moved out mid-2020. Left furniture behind. Clothes. Photos. The house didn't object. It felt satisfied. When we heard it was being demolished in 2021, I cried. Not out of sadness. Out of relief so intense it hurt. But the relief didn't last. Because after the house was gone, things didn't stop. In 2024, rooms still resist me when I'm upset. Hallways feel shorter when I try to leave arguments. Doors hesitate. And sometimes, when I apologize out loud, everything eases. I don't think destroying the house hurt it. I think it just freed it from pretending to be a place. The Aftermath, recorded 2024. They thought destroying the house would end it. Every family interviewed said some version of that. They tore it down in March of 2021. Heavy machinery. Concrete dust. The foundation cracked and lifted like a scab being pulled free. Neighbors said the air felt lighter afterward. Quieter. For a few months, everyone slept better. Then the call started. The first report came from the 1976 family. The father said his new home developed pressure zones. Certain corners felt wrong. The hallway outside his bedroom narrowed at night. Sound flattened. He started apologizing to empty rooms again. He didn't know why. The second family reported doors sticking when arguments escalated, lights dimming when voices rose. The sense of being observed, not watched, but accounted for. The third family experienced something worse. Rooms reorganizing themselves perceptually. Furniture feeling incorrect unless placed a certain way. One of them said, "It's like the house learned how to be portable." By late 2022, similarities became undeniable. Each family experienced resistance when trying to leave during emotional distress, pressure in enclosed spaces, relief after verbal apologies, hallways that felt too short or too long, rooms that responded to tone, not action, and one shared detail none of them realized mattered until later. They all experienced the same dream. A house with no address, no exterior, just interior space, endless rooms, walls breathing slowly like a resting animal, and the certainty that if you stopped moving, the house would settle around you. In early 2023, one family member attempted therapy. They described the house. The therapist interrupted them, said another client had described the same thing, same layout, same sensations. By mid-2024, there were 3 documented cases across different states, all former residents, all experiencing the same escalation. The house no longer needed walls. It didn't need location. It had learned people, how they organize space, how they create rooms in their minds, how guilt creates corridors, how fear builds walls. The house existed now as a behavior, a pattern, a way space responds to emotion. One interviewee said something that ended the investigation. They said, "It wasn't a haunted house. It was a house that learned how to live without one." No one lives in the same home twice, but they all experience the same rules. Don't yell. Don't leave angry. Apologize when the air tightens. Arrange your life carefully, because the house is no longer a place you visit. It's a way space decides to keep you. And once it learns you, it doesn't need an address ever again.